start with our sugar in this case. So I'm going to use just golden caster sugar, and I like using golden caster sugar because it's a really simple product to use. It dissolves quite quickly. A lot of the time, if you're using a sugar cube, you might put a sugar cube in the bottom and some dashes of Angostura bitters on top, and then you would put a little bit of water in and try and muddle it down. It takes a while to dissolve. A good old-fashioned needs stirring and tasting and stirring and tasting to get the right level of dilution. A friend of ours runs a bar in London, and friend of ours runs a bar in London, and if you order an old-fashioned from him, the first thing he does is give you a beer, because he says it should take 8 to 12 minutes to make a good old-fashioned.
I had an old-fashioned in a local pub, and I was at the bar. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
And I said, old-fashioned, please. And I looked away for a second to chat to my friend. Turned around, and there was a drink in front of me. I was like, how is this possible? And the answer is, it's not possible, because it was one of the worst drinks I've ever had. I think it literally was sling, sling, sling. Oh, yeah, and there it was. And it really was. There's no balance, there's no complexity, no bloody effort gone into it. That's the most important.
None. This is a cocktail that we have come up with, and they're in your little cocktail packs, little kind of packs here. And it was inspired by being in Morocco. So this is kind of a rose-tinted or rose-scented old-fashioned. So I've just put 1 bar spoon. The only measure we're going to use is this jigger for the whiskey. Everything else is just done in spoons. So 1 bar spoon of golden caster sugar in there, and I'm going to put in a tiny teaspoon of water as well to help just dissolve that. And then I'm just going to stir it down. I'm going to use this end, the kind of disc end, to stir it down. Where's the ice, by the way?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Just to stir it down a little bit. And then I am going to add in a bar spoon of rose water. I'm a big fan of rose water. Not everybody likes it, but I'm going to stick a bar spoon of rose water in, which will give it an incredible sort of floral note. And hopefully, if anybody has been to Marrakesh or India, it'll give you a bit of a kind of throwback to those flavours and ideals that come from there. So I'm stirring down the sugar, and then I'm going to slowly add a couple of blocks of ice. So 2 blocks of ice to kick off with, and just stir it down and keep stirring and keep stirring and keep stirring. The key is to stir really quietly. Stir as quietly as you can, and it will begin to dissolve. So we're looking for dilution and chill. So there's a little bit of dilution going on. I'm just going to take my... Yeah, go. Yeah, I don't need it in a second. But I'm then going to add in 50 ml, that's the top half of the jigger, of Glen Moray Classic. So that's all the way to the top. And in the glass. And then I'm going to keep stirring to dilute down our drink and keep it chilled, and trying all the time to dissolve the sugar that's in there. So to get it nice and sweet. The perfect old-fashioned has no residual sugar in the bottom of it. You can see why it takes 8 to 12 minutes to make. I ain't going to be doing this one for 8 to 12 minutes, don't worry. So I'm going to keep building, keep adding ice. Grab some ice out of there. Keep adding a couple of blocks of ice at a time. Keep stirring. Now, the difference between a stirred drink, built drink, and a shaken drink. When you shake a drink in a cocktail shaker, the idea is to chill it with as little dilution as possible. You're throwing it about quickly to get the cold through the drink. Think of a daiquiri, for example. You strain it off into a coupe. You don't want much dilution. With a drink that's built in the glass like this, or stirred in a cocktail glass and then poured into the glass, the idea is to have dilution, but you also want to get it nice and cool. This ice is already disappearing at a pretty rapid rate, especially as the alcohol hits it.
You ready? I'm thirsty.
I'm then going to add in just a couple of dashes of cardamom bitters. So we've got rose and cardamom going on here. Stir that down a little bit more. And then really, you got the old scoop. Yeah, scoopage. Thank you. It's a bit easier. I'm then just going to really load it now with ice, because a good old-fashioned shouldn't be stingy. Give it one last stir.
Isn't this always a thing? I remember my parents in the sort of 80s and 90s. Well, not the 80s, I was a child then, but when you were having a gin and tonic,
One block
They've
of
got
ice.
one cube of ice. It's like, you know, we're not in the 19th century.
It's such a infuriating thing in the
Oh.
world.
Oh, it's too diluted.
And those bags,
Yeah.
they used to fill those bags. You have to pop them out like awful. So, as you're stirring it, pull it out, use the other end with the spoon on, just to give it a taste. I mean, you've got your own spoons, you can do that, you can put it on the back of your hand. And we're looking for a good balance between the sweetness, the flavour of the bitters, and the whiskey to come through, and for it to not be too diluted.
I'll be the judge of that, buddy.
I'm done with this one. What I would normally garnish this beautifully and romantically with a rose petal, but we haven't got any rose petals.
Is that for
I
you?
was very excited when we saw that as I came in, but it's not real, so I won't save you the trouble of a fake rose petal. But have a little try of that. So this is a rose and cardamom old fashioned using the Glen Moray Classic whiskey.
Well, you've not gone as heavy on the rose.
I did go a bit heavy on the rose last time. I'm a big rose fan.
Your hand
so-
slipped, didn't it?
What do you think? That's alright. There we go. What we're going to